Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Jason Frausto for TennisUnleashed.net, and in this video, we're going to do a match analysis breakdown of the men's 2020 French Open final between Novak Djokovic and Rafael Nadal. Let's see how Nadal beat Djokovic in straight sets on clay. Before we dive into the points, let's bore you with some basic stats, right? So let's look at the 1-4 shot rally length points. Let's look at the 5-8 shot points, the 9-12, and the 13 plus, and let's see what the percentages are. Typically on the Pro Tour, we see 55 to 70% of points are around 1-4 shots, okay? This match, though, was quite a bit different. We had 1-4 shot points where only 43% of the points played in this match. 31% of the points were 5-8 shot points. 17% of the points were 9-12 shot points, and only 9% of the points played were 13 plus shot points. We can also see the winning percentages for each shot category there, right? So Nadal dominated 1-4s, winning about 2/3 of those points. The reason he dominated them, though, is Djokovic made 22 unforced errors just in 1-4 shot points, which is about 50% of all the 1-4 shot points that were played. But besides Djokovic's errors in the 1-4 shot category, how did Nadal dominate this category? He dominated it by setting up his first shot in the point with a great serve placement, okay? Neither Djokovic or Nadal are the biggest servers on tour. What they tend to do is place their serves, what I like to call spot serving, and then from there, they'll take control of the point. Nadal typically with his forehand at things huge, so he can control a point really, really quickly. Let's look at some point examples now. All right, so let's just jump into the first point here. Nadal serving on the near side, right? Djokovic on that ad side. And here's that spot serve. Perfect placement. And you notice it's a slice serve, right? It's really hitting the small target area. And if you don't know what that small target area is, small targets I like to categorize as anything landing in this red area that's 2 or less feet from the single sideline. That means anything inside of this area is going to be considered a big target. So if you haven't seen our videos before, I talk about targets a lot and where they actually are as far as big and small targets. So wide serve, first warning sign for Djokovic, completely stretched to his backhand. And for Nadal, that's exactly what he wants, right? Nadal is finishing inside the court in the aggressive position. He's got Djokovic stretched. He sees those cues and is expecting some type of a short ball in the court. Let's see what happens. He gets exactly what he wants. And that allows him, right, because the return is a slice and it's slow and floating, that allows him the time to step around and safely crank the forehand if he wants to do that. And we know he's got a huge forehand. And what do we have from Djokovic on the other side? Djokovic has hit this short, weak ball, and Djokovic is split stepping and going this way. So he thinks Nadal's going inside out, but what's Nadal actually doing? He's going to take this down the line inside in, okay? Goes behind him, and then he finishes. So how did this start again? It's a really simple pattern. Wide slice serve to the backhand on the ad side for the lefty. He's got Djokovic outside of the alley, okay? So Djokovic has to scramble back into the court and really hustle, knowing that Djokovic really has to speed back into the court. It's very easy for Nadal to go behind him and finish the point down the line. A lot of people will say, well, that's a more risky shot hitting down the line. Technically it is, but Nadal has a ton of spin, a lot of net clearance. So for him, it's a lot safer shot than it is for your normal player. All right, so let's move on to the second point now. Again, we've got Nadal serving, right? We talked about being a spot server, not the biggest server, but placing your serves well and setting yourself up for the first shot in the point. Djokovic returning over on this side over here. Beautiful T serve. And it just shows you too, a lot of people think you can only stretch somebody by serving wide. That's not true. If you serve T and you get that thing going away from a little bit, you can stretch them there too. And you can see Nadal serves T. And again, what's the surefire sign? We've got Djokovic here stretched to his backhand, not hitting with two hands, but hitting with one hand. And if you've got Djokovic hitting a one-handed backhand slice, you're probably getting a weak return from him, okay? Nadal getting ready over on this side, hoping for forehands, right? And Djokovic gives it to him and gives him really, for Nadal, this is the best case scenario, and for Djokovic, the absolute worst. Where does this ball land? It lands in the shortest part of the court inside zone 1, inside the service line. If you're giving balls to Nadal inside the service line to his forehand, the point's pretty much over, okay? And again, he's forcing Djokovic on this side to guess where Djokovic thinks the ball is going. Clearly, Djokovic is going this way, right? He's leaning that way and he's going that way. So let's see what Nadal does. And again, down the line, right? Nadal is one of those guys, he has so much spin and so much speed together, he can finish down the line safely and not have guys be able to track that ball down. So there we see it to the small target, and then he finishes the point. But what set this up? Great spot serve down the tee, beautiful spot serve. The cue for Nadal that he's getting a weak ball, that backhand slice stretched position, right? So we see Djokovic there stretched, bunts it back, short ball, and then he finishes. Nadal came up with so many clutch spot serves on big points in this match. It was a critical component of him winning the 1-4 shot points. A lot of people commented in this match about Djokovic losing a ton of drop shot points and why he was abusing the drop shot, using it too often. It wasn't working for him. So what's the actual story on the drop shots for Djokovic? Well, we had Djokovic drop shotting Nadal a total of 23 times in this match. And of those, he won 52% of the points. Okay, so he actually won more than he lost. And a fun stat for everybody as to why Djokovic used the drop shot so much. Up until the last 6 points where Djokovic played a drop shot, he had won 70% of all the points in which he hit a drop shot, which is extremely high. He was winning a ton of them. He, unfortunately for him, lost the last 6 in a row. So let's take a look at some of those points and see why he lost those drop shot points and why his percentage went from 70% down to 52. All right, so let's jump into the first drop shot point. Now you got Djokovic returning on the near side, Nadal serving on the far side. And remember, until the final 6 drop shot points, Djokovic was winning 70% of the drop shot points. So let's see what happens. Got a body serve to Nadal. Djokovic inside out forehand. Nadal crushes it down the line here, right? Rips it. It's Djokovic on defense immediately there. And then Nadal starts looping to give himself time to recover on shots. So he's on a little defense here, loops it up, hooks it up against Djokovic to get that ball back in play. And really it's to give Nadal time to get back into the court. This is something people tend not to do to Nadal, but he does it to them all the time. It's this high loopy stuff, and then he'll hit a huge shot out of nowhere, okay? Djokovic goes drop shot here, and this is where the drop shot started to fail for him, right? In the third set, it just wasn't affected the final 6 points. Now, the position that Djokovic decides to take it from is perfect. He's inside the baseline, and he's moving forward. That's where we typically see people play drop shots from. It's very effective because the other person doesn't know if you're going to be aggressive and try to damage him or if you're going to hit something softer like this. So he hits the drop shot. My issue with this drop shot, he almost had Nadal here, but my issue is how wide he hits the drop shot, right? He probably feels like he needs to do this to win the point, but what he's really doing right now is he's opening up this and he's opening up this. There is no way Djokovic can cover from here to here and also here to here. It's just not going to happen. Nobody's fast enough to cover all that. So at this point, now that you've opened up this big angle and you have to cover a giant amount of space, you've given Nadal a lot of options. You're going to have to guess which way he's going to go. So let's see what happens. Djokovic, and this is the mistake he makes, he splits and Djokovic is going this way. He guessed this direction. He guessed wrong. Nadal goes the other way, and then Djokovic barely gets a racket on this. And yes, Nadal had to hit a small target right in the red to do it, but Djokovic can't get that over and in and makes the error, right? So Nadal forces him into an error. So again, the problem with this particular drop shot, besides the fact that he had abused them so much and Nadal was starting to read it and see it, was he hit it too wide and opened up the court. And in this particular case, Nadal took advantage of that. All right, so here we have the second drop shot point. Djokovic serving on the far side, Nadal returning from zone 5, really deep in the court on the near side. We're getting pretty far into the third set, right? Nice tee serve right there. Good spot serve from Djokovic. Gets Nadal stretched, leaning over in a hunched position. Pretty uncomfortable for him, but does a good job with these. And again, hits the ball nice and deep. Djokovic gets really aggressive, and we saw Djokovic getting hyper aggressive in the third set to try to end points early. Here, he hits a small target, right? So he's taking some big risk to try to end these points. Nadal goes over, gives himself time by hooking it. I've heard comments about how Nadal has lost a step and he's slower than he used to be. Probably is. He's 34 years old. But how do we get around that? There's ways to get around things to an extent, okay? So what does Nadal do at 34 years of age? He's going to loop a little bit more, because that looping and the time it takes for his ball to get to Djokovic gives him time now to get back in the court, right? If Nadal hit this really hard, and right back to Djokovic. Djokovic goes down the line, points over. Doesn't do that. He hooks it and loops it, so he has the time and, maybe can make up for some lost footwork speed because he is 34 now. He's not 24 anymore. But he does that to give himself time. Djokovic, again, this is crazy. Djokovic gets the ball here, which is a good small target, but goes small target again. Djokovic has hit back-to-back small targets and can't win the point. It's pretty crazy. So 2 small targets, again, defense from Nadal. What kind of defense does Nadal use, knowing that, hey, maybe I'm not as fast as I was when I was 24? He slices high, gives himself plenty of time to recover, and gives himself another opportunity. He's also back in zone 5, right? So the further back you are in the court, the more time you have to get ready for shots and to play some defense. So back in the back of the court, hooks another one, because again, Djokovic hits a pretty good ball here. Inside out forehand, big target, fairly close to the line though, considering where it is. It's not like in the middle of the court, right? And he's got Nadal again out in the wide part of the court. Nadal off balance and hooks it again with some height to give himself time to get back in the point. Djokovic with some really nice depth here. A little bit loopier from Djokovic. This is the deepest ball Djokovic has hit in the point. Nadal loopy back. And here's another thing. Djokovic won the battle of depth in this match. He hit more of his shots deep there in what is zone 3 back here. But in this particular point, Nadal hits 5 consecutive balls in zone 3, which is the deepest part of the court in the third set when the match is the tightest. That's absolutely clutch. Djokovic here, getting close to the line again, right? It's not a small target, but it's pretty close. He's taking a lot more risk than he did in the first 2 sets as far as his left to right. Nadal now, though, is like, okay, I'm going to give you a little hook forehand angle, and I'm going to take you off the court. If you watched our Schwartzman versus Nadal videos, Schwartzman used this tactic against Nadal in their match. He got him outside the alley, and then he'd take the ball to the open court. Now we see Nadal doing that to Djokovic, getting him off the court into the alley and trying to set something up. But he did that by creating an angle here and taking Djokovic outside the alley. Now, if you ask me where the worst place you could probably hit a drop shot from would be, it'd be behind the baseline outside the alley. And it's for the same exact reason as the last point. You're opening up a giant angle that didn't exist before. So here, giant angle, right? And not only that, he hits a small target again, just on the fringe of the red, right? Nadal sees this drop shot coming a mile away. He's going already forward here. He knows it's coming, moves forward, gets the forehand, and super easy big target finish there. All right, so that wraps it up for part 1 of our match analysis between Djokovic and Nadal. If you found this video helpful, make sure you smash that like and subscribe button. We have a full single shot selection and court position course covering pro tactics and how you can apply them to your tennis game at tennisunleashed.net. Make sure you check that out. I'm Jason Frausto for tennisunleashed.net. We'll see you next time.